Meeting to order. Everyone please stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Ashley, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
Here.
Cavalier,
Here.
Kressel, Klatt,
Here.
Menard,
Here.
Melby,
Here.
Jurdy. Here.
This is the time for the open forum. If anyone would like to address the council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda, may come to the podium. Hearing none from the people sitting in the council chambers. Chad, is there anyone waiting on the city's phone bridge?
No, Your Honor. I will go ahead and close the bridge.
Agent logged off.
No presentations. This brings us to the agenda. Does anyone wish to add or remove anything from tonight's agenda? Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved, Clayton.
Second?
I'll second.
Hearing none, or that passes?
We need roll call, Your Honor.
Oh, sorry.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Klatt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy. Aye. Motion carries, Your Honor.
Motion carries. This consent agenda, this brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda?
Vice Mayor, item 6.01 is approving the proposed council minutes from the May 8th, 2023 meeting. I've placed an amended copy in front of everyone and have updated the City of Crookston's webpage to reflect those changes.
Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Klatt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy. Aye.
I will open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to address the council? If so, please come to the podium, state your first and last name, as well as your address.
Your Honor, I'm just going to let the public know what this public hearing is about. So item 7.01 is a public hearing on the Minnesota Investment Fund MIF application for North Star Lime LLC.
Does anyone else wish to address the council? Hearing none, let's close the public hearing. That brings us to the regular agenda. Ashley?
Yes. Item 8.01 is a resolution approving the Minnesota Investment Fund MIF application for North Star Lime LLC.
Do I have a motion to approve this
So
resolution?
moved.
Second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Discussion?
Yes, what we have here is, if you remember last meeting, North Star Line came, Brian Bowl and Phil Schramm made a presentation. They are asking us to be the sponsor for the application to the state to get Minnesota investment funding for their particular entity to the tune of $430,000. I would just say, as a matter of process, normally we would have a public hearing and wait 2 weeks before the motion came on or the resolution. There is some urgency in the presentation of this by the May 31st deadline, so we are asking you for your approval tonight.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Klatt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
This passes. Resolution regarding the transfer of positions within the City of Crookston Finance Department.
Yes, Your Honor. The resolution regarding the transfer position within the City of Crookston Finance Department.
Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So move, Your Honor.
Second?
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Discussion?
Yes, what we have, for a little background for all of you, our present finance director, Ryan Lintweed, approached me some 2 weeks ago with respect to this possibility. Ryan indicated that he thought that his skills as an accountant would be much more beneficial to the city in the accountant position, which dovetailed with the resignation by our previous accountant. We discussed this matter, and he also indicated to me that he thought that our present accountant would be in a good position to assume the finance director role. We did speak with Audrey Pesa about that possibility. You do see her credentials in the resolution. She said that she would be interested and willing to accept that on condition that she certainly would get help from Ryan and also our former accountant, Kathy Carlson. We did talk about the parameters of advertising for a new finance director. We talked about that quite extensively, and given the timing of the audit, which is presently ongoing, given the timing of Ryan Lintweed's desire to move into that position and the credentials of Audrey Pesa, I felt it appropriate to make the transfer to accountant for Ryan, but I do need your approval to get a new department head. If you have any questions, let me have them.
Further discussion?
So where the funding, we have the funding to add another department head?
Well, what will happen is we've already budgeted for the department head, finance director, that would be Audrey, and Ryan will assume the accounting position, and in fact, it will save us about $5,000.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Anything further? Hearing none, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Item 8.03 is a resolution regarding a design consultant contract involving MnDOT, the City of Crookston, and a design consultant.
Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Corky?
Yes, what we have here is, this relates to our corridor, which will be constructed, we hope, in 2027. We need a design consultant. Brandon Carlson, our Public Works Director, myself, and met with, via video, the Minnesota MnDOT and another representative. Typically, each entity, MnDOT would be responsible for their trunk highways. The City of Crookston is responsible for its local roads in that project. It's possible that each of us could bid it out separately. When talking with them, they recommended we think we would get the best bids following MnDOT's procedure, and they offered then a three-way bidding process to get an RFP, and then we would enter into a three-way contract with MnDOT, the City of Crookston, and whatever design consultant is selected, and the billing would then be done breaking it out, whatever the city had for its side streets, whatever the state had for its trunk highways would be billed separately, would be billed over the next 4 years as those design services were done. Any
further
questions?
discuss-
I know we had some conversation about maybe some modifications to the design, like adding more features that would slow traffic. Is that still in process or part of the conversation?
That could be part of the design, the work of the design consultant.
Okay.
And
That's in the contract anyway.
Basically, what MnDOT's looking for this is a consent from you guys to that if, you know, their estimated cost to the city is 100 and what was it?
20,000.
20,000. So if bids come in close to that, that we're committed to the project, because if we decide to not go forward with the design and they have to remove the city from the RFP, they have to start the process over. So it's gonna cost them like 4 months. So, they're just looking for, at the end of the day, a commitment from us that we're gonna move forward with the design part at least, so.
And the initial conversation was that we would add this in because it would be cheaper since they were already doing the original streets, that we were adding this piece in, correct?
Yeah, and I think it's better for consistency for the project to hopefully have one contractor, not, you know, if we bid it separately, you could end up with 2 different contractors on the project, and then it kind of leaves room for blaming the other guy, kind of
Sure.
a deal.
Throwing each under the bus.
Yeah, yeah, okay, thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Carries.
Item 8.04 is a resolution regarding an intermediary relending loan program mortgage and assignment of rent satisfaction on the property formerly owned by Gus Swenson and Sons Incorporated.
Corky?
Yes, what we have.
We need a motion, Your Honor,
Make
and
that
a second.
motion, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Your Honor?
I'll second.
Okay, what we have here remarkably is a loan that was given in 1995 and paid off in 2002. There is a pending real estate transaction involving this property, and the mortgage has never been satisfied by the city. We did find information, Ryan, and found the information that this loan has in fact been paid. So we're recommending that we issue a satisfaction, and there was an assignment of rents to make those payments, and that there be a relinquishment of that assignment of rents.
So we've had this a couple other times,
Yes.
haven't we? So why have we lost track of some of these, or what's been happening?
The best we can determine, yes. They've been, at the time these IRP loans were made, we had notes and mortgages, and they have just never, these have never been satisfied.
It seems like a lot of these come up only when there's like a transfer of
Right.
property or something of that nature where this needs to be
Yes.
done.
Yeah. What I had shared with Corky when I found the information on this one, with the reporting that gets done to the USDA on these loans, we used to have to do that twice a year, but then we paid off our loan with them. So then that part of that goes away, but all the history is with the state, and I told Corky I can go through each one, and I'll give him a spreadsheet of the ones that have end dates that are paid off, and then we can check on those.
So
If
we
others.
have a handle on what, if there's any more.
Yes, we will.
And then what's outstanding too.
Yeah, we'll have a handle on the
Yeah.
ones that have been paid, the ones that are still outstanding for payment, and we've initiated a policy now that when we get a fully paid off at the next council meeting, we will issue a satisfaction.
Okay.
These have just lingered for, as you
Yeah.
can see.
So just a question, I mean, you might implement this policy within this group that we have now, but what happens in the future when all of us are gone and you're not here? How does this policy keep going in the future?
Through the finance department, it will be a written policy, and there will be a record of it there for, passed on by each succeeding finance director.
Okay.
That's where it sits and lies.
Further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Klatt,
Aye.
Menard, Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, yeah.
Item 8.05 is a resolution regarding the authorizing the creation of a joint airport zoning board, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion to approve this
I'll
resolution?
make that motion, Your Honor.
I'll second.
Corky?
What we have here is, because we're making some changes at the airport, specifically the AWOS, the Automated Weather Observation System, we have to rezone some areas potentially at the airport. In order to do that, we need to have rezoning authority. And in order to do that, we had to notify some of the surrounding townships of that possibility. And we needed to create a board. And they needed to respond whether they wanted to be part of the board or not part of the board. This is on the advice of our SEH engineers who are working with us on the airport. And then we will, if this is passed, we will initiate the procedures to get that rezoning board activated.
Do you foresee any issues with us rezoning or having concerns from those surrounding areas?
I don't think so, no. In fact, the letters that we sent, asking if they wanted to be part of the zoning, rezoning board, 2 of the townships didn't even answer, so they forfeit that right. 2 did, said we would like to be part of it. They're the closest in proximity, and I believe they will have representation and be able to work with us.
So Corky, is this entity separate from the airport commission?
Yes, it's a separate rezoning board.
And it's just for zoning, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Passes.
Item 8.06 is a resolution regarding the authorizing the city of Crookston to zone areas surrounding its airport.
Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Is that Delane?
Corky?
Yes, this is just enacting that, authorizing us to rezone around the airport as is necessary. As you all may know, that automated weather observation system is not in compliance presently with the new standards. We have to find a new place for it, and the old one is antiquated. So we will be working on that to rezone to get it in the proper placement.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Passes.
Item 8.07 is a resolution authorizing to execute the Minnesota Department of Transportation grant agreement for the airport improvements, including land acquisition, Minnesota Agreement Number 1053770.
Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
Yep. Corky?
What this is a grant from the state for help in the AWAS system location. And state will pay about $17,000 and we'll pay $7,000. 70-30 split. It's a good deal. Every time we can get $7 for $3, makes sense.
Further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Motion carries, sorry.
8.08 is a discussion/resolution regarding the property of 103 North Nelson.
Yes, this is on the agenda tonight for a property that is dilapidated and
Did you want to make a motion for the resolution? We have a resolution.
maybe afterwards.
Okay.
And we have here the city attorney, Tanner Holton, who has been working on this. This property has been the subject of some city activity for at least the last 4 years.
All right, hello, everyone. First time in person city council meeting for me. I had been listening to all of the council meetings by YouTube, thanks to our IT director, who also helped me out today. I do want to start off, too, by noticing that the property owner for this particular home is here. I believe she's going to like an opportunity to address the council as well before you make any decisions. It's important to allow her to have that opportunity prior to making any decision here. The property in question is there on the map. It's the highlighted blue portion. It's 103 Nelson Street North. It's over on, I guess, Crookston Avenue, this road here, and then Nelson Street here. It's right next to a city lot, which is this one right here. And again, it looks like it's highlighted in blue for you. I'm going to the next slide. This is just the front of the home. This was a picture taken by Mr. Hefta, I believe, last week. Again, just used for identification purposes. The next slide indicates who the deed holder is. And again, that's Miss Alexander, who is here today. And Chad, we're actually able to skip the next few slides, but if you want to go to the next picture, that would be appreciated. This was a picture that was provided to the city a few years ago by Tri-Valley. This did result in an administrative search warrant on the property where an inspection was briefly done. Miss Alexander and her family were moved out of the residence around that time and placed in a hotel. And speaking with Miss Alexander tonight, she's indicated that she was staying in a hotel for a significant period of time. But then the COVID-19 pandemic occurred and she didn't really have anywhere else to go, which resulted in her moving back into this home on Nelson Street. Again, this is a picture from a few years ago. This has been an issue that has been going on for a few years and has actually gone through a couple administrations or administrators here in Crookston. The action that we're taking today is kind of a last resort. And shouldn't be done very often, but sometimes it's necessary to make sure that needed repairs are done on these structures. Next slide, Chad.
Mr. Holton, what is this a picture of?
I was just gonna ask that.
Oh, going back to the previous one, that's actually the basement of this property.
The foundation wall is collapsed totally. You can see gaps between the wall, between the floor and the surrounding area, the ground level, and basically the masonry block is all collapsed within the basement, making it an unsafe structure.
So again, that's the basement, that's a foundation wall. Going to the next slide, you see it from the outside. Again, this was actually from a couple of years ago, but the damage to that basement foundation wall is apparent from the outside. You can easily see that it's exposed to the elements, that it's probably not further helping the damage that has been caused to have the snow and the rain go into the home, especially in the bottom there. But that is the damage. It is on one side of the house, just one portion of the house. It has caused, going back to the previous slide, you can see a slight slant in the upper floor, which also causes some concern about the structural integrity of the home in total, but the big issue is this foundation wall that's collapsed. And there's some other pictures going forward, Chad, to the next one. This is another picture taken of that same wall. It looks like some beams were maybe put in place to try to support it. Again, that doesn't appear to be a fix that's going to do a whole lot for a long period of time. And really the risk and concern here is that this house might not maintain its structural integrity forever, and it might collapse and cause some more issues than what we have right now. Going to the next slide. This is a more recent picture taken from that city lot next to this home. As you can see in that around the middle of the page, there's still that hole here that hasn't been addressed. And going forward to the next page is just a zoomed in picture, still showing that gap is present. There is some plants that are obscuring the view of that, but it is still present and hasn't been fixed as of yet. So the resolution before the council tonight, and it's sort of necessary to take any formal action, is to declare that this house is a hazardous home. As if the council elects to do that, the council needs to decide what a reasonable amount of time would be for the homeowner to either repair this home or try to repair this home, or to get it raised on her own. And speaking with Miss Alexander, she indicated that she would like a fairly significant number of days. I believe she indicated around 180 days, and I'll let her speak for herself too in a little bit, but that's a fairly significant amount of time to make these repairs. It's my understanding in speaking with her as well that she actually has someone coming to look at the house in about 8 days to see what can be done, if it can be fixed, and what that cost will be. What is a reasonable time has not really been, obviously it's Minnesota case law, it's not been described about what is reasonable. It depends on the circumstances, it depends on the facts in these cases. This particular case, I have concerns personally that this house may not be structurally sound. I know that our city official has those same concerns, and this has been a house that has been out there for a while. It really came back to the attention of the council and to us when Tri-Valley indicated they had been in there to replace some equipment and realized that individuals were still residing in this home. The real big issue and concern that I have is I really don't want this house to fall over with someone in it. That being said, you do need to allow the homeowner an opportunity to either repair or raise the home themselves. What is a reasonable time? Courts have said 14 days is a reasonable time. Courts have said 30 days to 60 days is a reasonable time. This situation, I'm glad that Miss Alexander already has someone lined up to come and see the house. I think that's an important first step. But this situation, I think, demands fairly immediate and emergency action. I would suggest, at most 60 days to get these repairs going. But it could be sooner if enough steps aren't taken. I hope Miss Alexander is going to take the steps necessary to get a contractor involved and to make this structure sound as fast as possible. But in the event that that doesn't happen, I need direction on when I can file your order, assuming that you sign it with the court, indicating that progress hasn't been made to my satisfaction or to your satisfaction. So it is really what do you determine as a group here, what a reasonable time is. Before I step down, I just want to ask, are there any questions for me at this point?
So for me, I would almost like to hear what the contractor would have to say before I made a decision going forward, because if the contractor says that there's nothing that can be done here, then we can make our decision a lot faster. We can make the days, say, okay, you got, 30 days, 45 days, whatever the case may be. But if the contractor says, well, we can do this and then we can grant maybe longer.
That's a good point, and I understand that intent. It does make sense to do it that way. If you do it that way, what I would suggest is that you maybe include a set number of days, let's just say 30 days in the order that you sign. And then if progress is being made, if she has the contractor and progress is being made, maybe she can't complete it that quickly, but at least progress is being made. We could come back before the council, or I could just elect not to.
After seeing the pictures, I have a feeling that the contractor's going to say this is going to cost more than what the house is worth.
And they might very well say that, and if that's true, then Ms. Alexander can decide if that's something she wants to incur the cost of, but that very well could be true.
Greg, have you had an opinion about this? Have you gotten to inspect it closely at all?
I actually haven't been in the interior, but I've seen the exterior, and based on the previous pictures, I don't think anything has changed from the previous pictures. I'd say it's an unsafe condition, unsafe dwelling, unsafe for the resident. We have our preventive maintenance manual for the code internally for the ordinance that references any building that's unsafe should be either vacated or reworked, replaced, whatever, to make that foundation correct. So in my opinion, that's an unsafe condition.
Are there still utilities attached to the dwelling?
That I don't know exactly. I don't believe it has had water, at least for a couple of years now. I'm not sure about other utilities.
I can indicate that I have spoken with a representative from Tri-Valley who was asked to enter the home to replace the hot water heater and the furnace. And given the condition of the home, they were told by the state of Minnesota they could not make any replacement of the water heater or the furnace.
Is there a way you can do this all at once here, saying, okay, she's gonna get somebody in 8 days, so if you got, say, 20 days or 30 days to have this assessment, then you got another 30 days to figure out what you're going to do with that, so you don't have to make a decision overnight. And then at the end of the 60 days, if there's nothing going on, well, then we'd have the final countdown.
Yep, we could do something like that where I think Miss Alexander and I will be able to remain in contact about some of this stuff. And that's kind of what I'm hoping happens. If, you know, I get the inclination that maybe there isn't really any other options, I could come back before the council and just indicate that much. But I would suggest that we get the order going today, and the main reason for that is if we don't do it today, then I really don't have any enforcement authority. I can't go to the courts and ask them to do anything. It needs to come from the city council, the elected people who are charged with making these tough decisions. If we hold off on getting that order, it's really just stalling the whole process until we get that order signed.
So I'm concerned that, you know, that our community member will be rendered homeless. Is there a plan in place for temporary housing for the family?
And that's a concern that we've had in this particular situation for a while. I did not indicate this to Miss Alexander, but I know Tri-Valley has worked with her in the past. They are willing to continue to work with her, but they did indicate that she needs to take some of those first steps and get contact. I know that there's, Tri-Valley's always been helpful in situations like these, but that's a good concern to have about. I mean, it sounds like Miss Alexander moved back into this house with no other options during the height of the pandemic. And depending on council's action, it could render an individual homeless, but that's one of the tough decisions that we need to make. The alternative.
So how soon, I mean, can we make a decision tonight if it should be vacated? Like, how soon would that be? I mean, because I have concerns about safety in this house, I mean, going forward from tonight. I mean, and she's living in there right now, correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
I mean, I'm not comfortable with that moving forward from tonight's meeting, knowing what we know now.
And really the concern is the same one Mr. Menard brought up, is that, and to be honest, there already is an indication in the city's file that this home had already been indicated uninhabitable, and it wasn't brought before the council ever. But there is that indication out there that a previous building official, not Mr. Hefta, had indicated that this is not a home that someone should be living in. We did work out temporary placement for sounds like for almost a year in a hotel, but that is still out there, that we are of the belief that this is not a home someone should be living in. I think our city official would agree with that right now. The concern is that how do we enforce that, for one, and then the ramifications of enforcing that is that you're kicking someone out of.
I can indicate that I've spoken with Tri-Valley, both their advocate for homelessness and their director, who indicated that they are willing to work with Ms. Alexander, but she needs to take those steps to contact them directly and work with them to find potentially a spot for her.
Miss Alexander is here. Can we hear from
Yes.
her?
Miss Alexander?
Oh,
I'm May.
Welcome.
Thank you.
so Question, are you able to make steps with Tri-Valley to try to find some other housing?
Yes, that kind of like, so what happened was we got the notice on the door on Friday, and that was like after hours. So, like, we didn't find it until like 8. So we're like, oh, okay. So we had like the weekend of panic. So it's just, what are we gonna do? So today I called like contractors. That's what I was focused on fixing of the house. Because it says raise or repair. So I was like, let's repair it. Let's repair it quick.
But I think the repair, I'm sorry to say, but I think the repairing option is we're far beyond that at this point. So I'm just wondering if you should like make
Well,
steps
see,
as soon as
here's-
tomorrow.
Here's the thing, is that it's been there for 4 years, like, as it is. And nobody's, like, touched it or anything. So it's not, I was gonna wait until the contractor came in to, before making any, like, decisions. And the soonest they can come out is on Tuesday. Like, next Tuesday.
Can I ask, she said that the first time that she's heard about this was on Friday, correct?
Yes.
So you were not
Of
contacted?
this situation, of the raising of the, like, what's on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did you reach out to her before that?
Actually, it was Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock. I'm sorry.
I'll address this. So, yeah, you can wait. So for this most recent action, this is something that kind of came to our attention, I guess last meeting, which was about 2 weeks ago. Miss Alexander we've attempted to go to her house a couple times and were unsuccessful, me and Mr. Hefta. That culminated with me posting it on her door on that Friday, like she indicated. But that is, as far as it relates to this particular meeting, that is the first notice she has gotten, at least in my understanding, and it sounds like that's correct.
Well, that being said, this just didn't happen in a matter of 6 months or a year. It's been like this it's probably been uninhabitable for at least 4 years or so. So, so I'm at a point for myself, I think we need to figure out a way. I mean, I think 180 days is too long.
Oh, yeah, that was just,
I even think
that was
60
literally
days
like
is
me
too
just
long.
ballpark in 6 months. And I was like,
I'm more inclined to go 30, and if there's something that, I mean,
well, I was gonna ask for like 60 because the contractor that we contacted, who's gonna come out for the quote, they said that they're very busy right now. So I don't wanna
so what are you gonna do in the meantime in 60 days?
well, first we have to earn the money that it's gonna cost. So, because we live on a very tight budget.
And I totally understand that, but I'm worried about you living in that structure for even a day, let alone 60 days.
But nothing has happened. Like, nothing has changed of it, nothing has like gotten worse or better. It's just the same.
But now it's before us. And correct me if I'm wrong, we're somewhat now responsible for her safety. Does that,
Well, we are on notice of the condition. The city of Crookston is, as it has been for a while, and for whatever reasons in the past, no one moved forward.
Right.
We're again on notice, and we would certainly bear some responsibility perhaps, if anything were to happen. And Tri-Valley, like I say, is available. Their doors would be open tomorrow. They're very aware of the situation because their representative was in fact the one who brought it to our attention when they were asked to go in and look around. So yes.
so I mean, I'd be comfortable with giving 60 days, but I'm definitely not comfortable of that building being inhabited for any days. So I don't know, can that be, is there something we can do with that?
Well, as Attorney Holton indicated, the council has to make a decision about what it wants to do. It has to give a reasonable time, and that's dependent on all the circumstances. One of the things that could be done is that you establish, let's say, as an example, 30 days. During that time, if progress were made, if a contractor really came in and said, this is what we can do to fix this up, and the inhabitant can show they have the resources to do that, you could extend it. You could say 14 days. Is that reasonable? You know, who knows for sure what that amount of time is. But Tri-Valley, like I said, is ready, willing, and able tomorrow morning to work with Ms. Alexander to get alternate living space.
Well, I share the same concern that Delane has, in that I think we have a duty to ensure that no one is going to be harmed, living in an unsafe and virtually condemned property. So is there a condition that we can place on this
condition
resolution whereby we say that they can go forward with the contractor, the bidding, the resources, and they have to be temporarily housed in the process so that they are safe during this period of time of exploring?
I think you can do that.
I would even say maybe that they would be housed elsewhere until they were able to prove that it was an inhabitable residence based on the codes.
And what Christie's indicated is 100% correct. As of now, our city official has deemed it not habitable. People shouldn't be residing there. That doesn't mean necessarily that people aren't going to be, but that being said, it has been deemed not habitable by the city. City official has that power to do that. And I think the way Christie worded it is exactly how it should be worded, if that is what the council wants to do.
So has any financial lender been contacted to see if she's capable of getting a loan to do the repairs?
So that was gonna be my question. If the contractor comes in and says, okay, we can save this house, what are your next steps to pay for those?
Attempt a loan. We have things that we can sell. Like I have an eBay store, but it hasn't been okay. It's not I'm not selling well, so I'll probably move to like Etsy or something.
Right.
I would be more comfortable with saying that we work with Tri-Valley, try to get you housing, and then once we can deem this as a habitable residence and that it is safe again to live in, then we go from there. I feel strongly with Tim and Delane on the fact that this is not a safe space. And I understand that nothing has happened yet, but that doesn't mean that it can't.
We have Attorney Hoven and Greg. You've given your viewpoints, and I think we all agree kind of to what three people are saying here, that we need to move forward. But what it would be your final research?
Asking you a question?
Both of you, yeah.
So I think that there might be a consensus that we're getting close to for the council here, that it's, maybe a 30-day fill in the blank on that resolution that I prepared. However, if the progress is made by Ms. Alexander, where she's getting a contractor and funds, that could be extended. But at least at this time, the council's not comfortable with an individual continuing to reside there, and that as soon as possible, Tri-Valley or another agency should be contacted to set up a appropriate alternative housing.
Thank you.
Is that something we need to do, or do we highly recommend?
Well, I think what Tri-Valley has suggested to me is that Ms. Alexander needs to make that contact.
That's what I'm saying.
That would not be something the city would be doing on her behalf, but she would need to do that.
And they've indicated they will work with her.
Yes. as best they can.
Yeah.
You know, given her circumstances and given their housing, that's available.
So this resolution is basically given how many days, right?
If it's filled in, it would be 30 days.
30
Now, there's
days.
nothing in there that says she can't live there, but
Can we do anything for that?
And because the property's been deemed uninhabitable in the past, I mean, we could put that in the resolution as well, that individuals shouldn't reside there, or can't.
So
And we can add that, but it has been deemed,
can I make a motion to make it 30 days and then the Miss Alexander should not reside there at all?
and I'll just indicate maybe some language that Miss Alexander or any other individual should be
Yes.
residing there.
And would that help her case at Tri-Valley,
oh, for sure.
you know?
I
So,
mean, that makes it even more urgent.
Right, looking at it that way, that,
And I'm sorry I made that motion, but I feel somewhat responsible for your safety. So that's the reason why I made that motion.
I just want to add one thing. Before anyone else makes a second on that, we should allow Miss Alexander a chance to say whatever she was going to say.
I was just gonna ask a couple questions. Just, what's the procedure, like, if you gave me 30 days, what would the procedure be if I didn't make the 30 days?
I mean, most of it is just making sure that you're taking the steps towards
Yeah.
getting it fixed.
'Cause
I mean,
I
if
was
those
just-
steps haven't been taken.
It was like if we had, because in the papers, it's sort of like, it's sort of out of order because it says, like, number 3 says it's ordered to be raised, and then, like, number 5 says you have 60 days. So I just need clarification on that.
Show me what you're looking at there.
It's number 3 and number 5.
Okay, so, and what she's referring to is the paragraphs that says that if repairs are not made within the time that you guys have indicated, which would be the 30 days here, that then the structure be ordered to be raised. And then that 5 is a process after that, where the city would need to get approval from the court on kind of the actions we've taken.
Is the 60 days, like, what is the 60 days?
The 60 days is an entirely new statute that's down the road that's telling you that you're supposed to, if this property is raised or going to be raised, that you have 60 days to remove your personal property, and that's from a statute. So that's kind of unrelated to where we're at now.
Okay, that was my question. I thought it was all the same. Okay. That was pretty much it.
You'll be able to contact Tri-Valley and, or in the future if you get,
Me?
if you, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can contact them. I was just mostly focused on the house for today, so I never thought to contact them.
Are you going to do that, do you think?
Yes.
do you need a second on that?
Yes.
I'd make that.
Yeah. So again, we have a motion by Delane and second by Tim in regards to a resolution ordering the repair / hazard residential building located at 103 North Nelson with a 30-day consideration, and that no one is able to inhabit the residence. Is that correct?
Until deemed inhabitable by,
And deemed habitable by our building official.
yep.
Ready for vote?
Further discussion?
I don't think this is a decision we take lightly, and I know this is putting quite the burden on you, but understandably so, we're
I just,
concerned.
what am I supposed to do for tonight? Can I do it like first thing in the morning? Or
Sure.
like,
I think
we'll call
that's,
Tri-Valley
I think
and
that's absolutely reasonable.
I think what they're indicating to you, Miss Alexander, is you need to take some steps. Tonight, you can't contact Tri-Valley, but, and keep the Attorney Holton advised. Yes, I saw him on this day, I talked to them, here's what they're, just keep us informed so we know you're moving forward.
Okay.
That be a fair statement, Mr. Holden?
I'll give you my number. You can call me
Okay.
with any questions or updates.
Okay,
I think the biggest part is just the communication with us.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Hearing none, let's have a roll call.
Fisher,
I,
Cavalier,
Aye.
Platt,
Aye.
Menard,
Aye.
Melby,
Aye.
Jurdy.
Aye.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Motion carries. Okay, reports. Corky?
Well, it's been a busy week. I've met with Cindy Jerswald regarding the Chancery property. The Chancery and the Cathedral are interested in selling that property, and I've had more than one conversation with her about that and what interest the city might have. We are working with Tim Frober to discuss the buyout on Riverside for the Bruley property. And there's been some interesting developments. It's not in his name. So we've suggested to Mr. Bruley that he meet with an attorney to get that in his name so we can move forward. Had meetings with many, many participants who will be speaking with you later tonight regarding the pool. Individual phone calls, reading letters, and meeting with individuals, including a committee. Dave Keene, Carrie Cushbaum, and I toured Washington School. We are making arrangements for a structural engineer to go through that building to see its exact status, so that we can make an informed decision and knowing what we should know about the building. We had recreation supervisor interviews. I believe we interviewed 5 such individuals. I don't know if is Jake here? He is here. Okay. But we have good results, and I'll let him talk about that. We've had various meetings with Ryan and Audrey, as you might appreciate, given the transfer and the appointment. We've had job description meetings with Jordan. A number of job descriptions need to be reworked. We've had public works discussions with Jordan, Brandon, Dave Lassard about just how we proceed forward with the lack of a utility supervisor and really needing that position filled. So we've made some changes there. We had the street assessment bid opening, which we will be discussing more thoroughly. I'm going to ask you to attend a special meeting on June 5th to discuss those bids that we've gotten and to make some decisions. And we've had pool financing discussions, many of them, with our finance department and with our park and rec supervisor. And again, I'm going to ask you to attend a June 5th Special Ways and Means Committee meeting to talk about the bids that we have received with respect to the proposed projects. Other than that, just a normal week, lots of time spent working on the agenda, and you might appreciate lots of time spent on the pool and the streets.
So that special meeting on the 5th be at 5:30?
5:30
Okay.
PM here.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Darren?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Well, we're definitely in full summer mode. Patrol investigations remain extremely busy. We responded to approximately 350 calls over the last 14 days. Last week was National Police Week, with Monday, May 15th, being National Police Memorial Day. We very much appreciate the support that we received from our community. And I again want to thank those who either brought treats or bought lunch for the members of the police department last week. Also last Thursday, May 18th, was the 11th Annual Northern Valley Police Week Memorial Service. This is a service that is sponsored by the Grand Forks Police Department. However, it includes law enforcement agencies from Northeast North Dakota, Northwest Minnesota, and regions of Canada. It's a very respectful and humbling memorial service that honors fallen officers from those areas. The police department, we've been part of the planning committee for the last 11 years or since the inception of the ceremony. This year's memorial service was hosted at the new police memorial, which is located at Optimus Park in Grand Forks. Encourage you, if you have a minute, to drive over there and check it out. It's pretty impressive. Officer Don Rascott, he was a wreath guard again this year at this service, as he has for the last several years. Our final police officer candidate, Alex Rudnick, starts this Thursday, May 25th. I know I've mentioned that before in previous meetings. Date has finally arrived, so we're very excited to be full staffed. And then since our last council meeting, either myself or a representative of the police department has attended following meetings. We had department head meetings, mental health community response meeting, Polk County opioid settlement advisory meeting with area partners to discuss prevention and treatment of adolescent vaping, DWI court, Pioneer Prairie Drug Task Force board meeting, and a Toward Zero Death meeting. To kind of mention some of the notable meetings we've been at. So yeah, unless there's any questions for me. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Shane, Fire Department.
Briefly, the last couple of weeks, we've had some discussions with DNR. Grass fire season stuff came upon us, and really fighting, waiting for green up. Had some calls, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Communicating with the state fire marshal on a couple of different issues that we've had. Scheduling a couple of daycare inspections in the area. As for the fire department, got some hose testing going on and a lot of spring operations coming out of spring, I guess getting into summer. Like our AC units are being checked, maintained. Guys were spraying weeds today. Other than that, we've got an interview tomorrow for the full-time position that is still open at this time, and we're gonna have a couple physical tests that happen tomorrow down at the station. And then hopefully I'll have some good news for you guys in the next couple of weeks that we're back to fully staffed. So that's about it. Any questions?
Thank you. Ryan? Chad?
Thank you, Your Honor and Council. Been very busy this past week, making account changes for some of the new personnel and the personnel changes that we've had, staffing changes that we've had. After several work sessions with our managed service partner, Exogen Solutions, I scheduled what we're calling our hard cutover, should be our final cutover to our new networking and compute platform for Friday, the 2nd of June. And that's all I have, unless there are questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Brandon?
Last 2 weeks, the guys have been busy with cleanup week, so I'll give you the normal report. There was almost 44 tons of household garbage and bag garbage. There was 75 tons of demo picked up. And then 35 appliances. I didn't count the tires, sorry. A couple pickup loads of tires. And then the following week, they did branch and yard waste cleanup. I didn't get a report on any of that because that all goes to our burn site. So I don't know how many trucks we got, but they worked on it, I think, 3 days last week and got through the majority of town. Other than that, we've been lining up a meeting with the DNR and the watershed to kind of get on the same page on that Houston Avenue project. Once we all get on the same page, we'll have a meeting with the residents of Houston Avenue, the 8 homes, to kind of give them a plan going forward. The process isn't going to be quick, but we want to make sure we do it right. So, but think we meet Wednesday of this week to come up with our game plan as a group, and then we'll contact the homeowners. Other than that, the utility guys have been busy doing locates. It's that time of the year, and there's only 2 of them, so the day-to-day stuff for them is keeping them busy. So, any questions for me?
How did the trash pickup like compare to last year?
I would say it was lighter than normal. We didn't have, as far as I'm aware, we didn't have to leave any homes that we limited debris on this year. So it seems like the few that had excessive debris last year got the message anyways, so.
I know you're short of help now, but I've had a lot of calls on street sweeping.
Our street sweeper is in Grand Forks getting the engine rebuilt right now. So we thought that the street sweeper, Kent thought he fixed it this winter by replacing the turbo, and when we got it out and put it under a load, we found out that it needed an overhaul. So I asked to Dave, and we haven't heard back from RDO yet, but the street sweeper was out for a week and a half or 2 weeks. It was burning 5 quarts of oil per day. So it needed an overhaul.
Thank you.
Hope the mosquito sprayer doesn't go out of whack.
What's that?
Hope your mosquito sprayer doesn't go out of whack.
Yeah. There was a few people saying they felt a few.
There's a few.
Greg?
Hello, everybody. Just a few items today, if I can get this open. But basically, we have a planning commission. It's a special one. We're going to have it June 1st at 6 o'clock. There's a rezoning for Marin Avenue. Basically, one resident is having issues selling a home with the mortgage company not wanting to back loans with being in a light industrial area. So she and 3 other residences are requesting that they change their zoning from light industrial to residential 2-home. We also have one other Otter Tail Power easement that's being requested. That doesn't need to be legally put out for a note, but also they did just send one for me today. I'm going to also include that if I meet, depending on the department head meetings tomorrow, if everybody agrees with it not being imposing on the city through city land. So probably the biggest thing is the egg innovation. We're doing some final testing this week for fire sprinkler and fire alarm systems. Most of the building itself is completed. We just want to see the testing, the verifications, certifications, that sort of thing. But beyond that, they do have some more work to do on the plant equipment, but I don't want to impose on them and tell them what to do with their own equipment. So that's the process equipment is out of my jurisdiction.
So how does three residential homes get put into a light industrial?
4, actually.
What?
4, actually. The one asked the other 3 to.
But I mean, did it get overzoned was it when the houses were there? Did it get zoned after the fact, or?
I believe it was when they did the zoning back in, I believe it was in the 60s that they created zoning. They included those homes at that time, and nobody either imposed or objected to themselves being in there. There are non-conforming homes within industrial commercial areas. Main Avenue, you could look right there, that's one area. I don't want to use the word grandfathered in, but it's just called non-conforming as pre-existing. So that's how that.
And some of the lending requirements have been tightened. And I think in speaking with the loan officer handling this, she indicated that the underwriting criteria have stiffened, tightened, and the lender says, we're just not going to approve this at this point if it's in industrial.
Any questions?
What time is that meeting at?
6 o'clock, June 1st. We had to make it special because I didn't meet the legal requirement for the legal notice in the paper, so just had to push it back a little bit. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Jake?
A little short here as we got Ways and Means about the pool. So just a heads up or a topic, the parks maintenance have been doing a good job. We got all our stuff in around the river. Tim, we put that dock in last week over by your place. They've been out mowing. It's mowing season now. So kudos to them this spring. They got all the baseball diamonds and softball diamonds ready for all the high school sports and stuff. So they've been working hard. All our picnic tables are being put out at all our rural parks and locations. So they were working on them too, painting them and refurbishing them and stuff. So one more thing, I accepted and offered a Michaela Jacobson, the rec supervisor position. She was in town today. We met for roughly, Corky, 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I'd say an hour and a half.
Showed her around town, showed her the pool, showed her the sports center. So she accepted the offer, and she is planning on starting the 12th of June. So she is from the state of Virginia, so she'll be moving to the Midwest from state of Virginia. So we're excited and happy. She
has a specialty in running a pool. She
Yeah.
runs a pool for a private company
I was just gonna ask that.
Yep.
in Richmond, Virginia. And quite frankly, Jake and I were very candid with her about our situation, and she said, I like challenges. So
that's
that
why
offer was extended and accepted.
Yes. So that's my report, and we'll discuss more with the
Jake,
pool.
just a heads up, in that small Riverside Park, thanks for the docks. When you are going to send the folks to mow, there are some berms that were created, soil and sod berms that were created when the ice came out, so
Okay.
you'll have to.
I know that dock,
leveling.
I think it's a little steep too to get down to that right now, so we gotta look at maybe doing some things there, so just a heads up, but yep. So, thank you.
Start with Wayne over there.
Okay. You're talking about, who did you miss?
I thought we were gonna introduce her tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Audrey.
Sorry.
Audrey who?
This is Audrey Pesa. She was our city accountant, and now, after your actions tonight, tomorrow morning, she will be our city finance director. Can you just give us a little background, Audrey, and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, in addition to what was provided in the resolution, I am a single mom with 2 boys. And currently living in Grand Forks. I'm enjoying the commute. I don't mind winter weather driving, so I don't foresee that being a problem. But otherwise, I really appreciate the opportunity to be your finance director, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Wayne?
Ready now? Okay. I heard Ashley on the radio today about the mowing situation. You do realize it's still no mow May? And there were people, I got calls today already that they're observing that and wondering if you're going to really get tough on them before that, what is it, another 10 days? And I couldn't say one way or another. They told me to take their chances, but anyway, I see the dandelions are coming out. Hope that's going to get sprayed. And other than that, I reserve some time for the swimming pool, I guess.
Christine?
I am sure, like a lot of council members, had some very informative conversations with people who are very passionate about the pool. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation today. That's all I have.
Henry?
Same as Christy, but at the Visitors Bureau, we just signed a contract with KVLY, so there's gonna be some more Crookston commercials coming out at least for the next few months, leading up to Oxcart days and everything, so.
Tim? I'm going to reserve time for the pool discussion. Thank you.
Elaine?
Nothing tonight.
Don?
I have a quick report from the Chamber of Commerce. They met, and their new executive director is Janelle Ward, and she is very, very excited about being in Crookston. Brooke Novak and Dana Johnson were elected co-chairs for that for the chamber, and we had a nice meeting, and they talked a lot about financial resource development plan for the future. They talked about Crookston storefront revitalization program, the chamber's annual sugar beet scramble coming up in July, and if you haven't bought a basket yet, their baskets are for sale, hanging baskets for downtown, $70 per basket, and they encourage you to buy one for someone who has passed away or somebody that you like, and so forth. So it was really a good and interesting meeting, and they're looking at working together with the downtown committee and also the other committee with the hotels in town. So they're excited about moving forward and doing a good job for this city. So that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. I have nothing other than just a reminder, there will be a Ways and Means meeting tonight. We are adjourned. discussion? I believe Jake's gonna take us on. Suppose we better have a recorder. You got the recorder going?
What's that?
Recorder?
Oh, I don't have a recorder.
It's recorded on there.
What's that?
It should be recorded back there.
Yeah, I think, Chad, you're recording this, yes? Did you want me to give a little- Yes. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. This is a special Ways and Means Committee that will initiate our discussion about the pool. Just a history, you may all know it, you may not. The pool's been open since 1974, operated by the school, operated by the city, and operated by a joint powers board. What brings us here tonight is that approximately 3 weeks ago, we had a water main break at the pool. The water main break needed to be fixed. As it was being fixed, we discovered that we have 2 heat actuators, I believe they're called, that were not functioning properly. They are the mechanisms that carry glycol throughout the system. They heat the pool water itself, and they heat the building itself. The water main break necessitated the pool being closed. It continued to be closed because of the problems with the actuators, and we are also scheduled to be closed for a week for regular pool maintenance. We discover now that these actuators will cost approximately $35,000 to $40,000 to replace just to open the doors of the pool. We can't function with the water and the heat as it is now without them being replaced. We have gotten estimates, and depending on what is recommended here tonight, if they were ordered tomorrow morning, we don't know when they'll be here. Jake will give you some information about that particular component of this. That's just to open the doors. Well, if we're thinking about opening the doors, we have a facilities study which some of you have received that talks about the whole pool itself and what needs to be done or what's recommended. If we were to do all of the recommendations, it would cost probably $1 million. How and why that would be financed, that's a separate issue. But as long as the pool is shut down, we thought we should take a look at this and how this we address this going forward. There are a number of items that Jake will be talking about, but the facilities study was done in September of '22. Given this immediate situation, we thought that we should address the whole issue. So, Jake.
Any questions with Corcoran's opening thus far, council? Okay, I just wanted to show what Corky kind of talked about. I went to the pool and I took some pictures of the pool, and sorry, that one's over there too. This just kind of shows what's happening inside that pool and how it's deteriorating right now and what we need to fix and things like that. So this is kind of the front of the exterior of the building. You can see these dark spots right here. That's moisture. So moisture is trying to get out of that pool. It's not ventilated properly. If you read in the feasibility study, they talk about weak vents and how that allows moisture to escape and not sit in your masonry walls. So it wasn't common back in the 70s when the building was built. So we're having issues with ventilation and moisture getting out of that pool. You can see it's starting to deteriorate the outside in the front of the pool. When I first started my position, we had the hole right here, and now it's just starting to rot. More pictures. Chad, next slide, please. So this is kind of the back exterior, the side, the back of the building. Again, we can just pointing out what they're talking about in this study about how the masonry work is starting to crumble and fall apart here. Next slide.
So question, that where the bricks are deteriorating, is the damage to those those parts of the building where those parts of the building needs to be replaced, or with proper venting, will that just?
Those will need to be replaced. It talks about in this study, it says it's estimated that 15 to 20% of the exterior masonry needs repair or complete replacement. So what I'm showing you now is what I took visual pictures of, and that's.
So in your study, in the study, it says the discoloration of the bricks would need to be replaced.
We don't know that. I don't know that. We have to get a structural engineer to come in and test that.
More than one occasion, I think, or 3 or 4 occasions within the facility study, there's a recommendation that a structural engineer be retained to do more in-depth testing of the various items. And I can say that we are now soliciting just quotes, like what would it cost us to get a structural engineer into this facility to do all of the things that the facilities study suggests.
So on the other side of these walls, is it creating any type of mold issue?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Next, please, Chad. This is just, in the study, it just shows that locker rooms, they suggest to have it update locker rooms. But I wanted to show you all that we have a very spacious locker rooms. I think you ladies will all agree. I have never been in the women's, but I've been in the men's. So I just wanted to show you, you know, to me, the updating would be maybe lockers, maybe some more rails, maybe some new showers, stuff like that. But it's just to kind of give you a visual of what they look like inside.
But those aren't like real top priority changes. Those are
no,
just
but I wanted
suggested.
to take the whole entire pool to you.
Yeah, yep, I get it.
Yep, okay. Next, please. But you can actually see it is starting to crumble here. Oh, sorry, Chad. Just hindsight. All right, this is the inside of the pool area. So this is where everyone comes in and joins, watches, swims, stuff like that. Mr. Clapp, just to let you know, or so you can see these top walls here, you can start to see rust and not good things on top.
Is it black mold?
I don't have an answer for you. I took a picture. I don't believe it's mold. I don't believe it is. But all these roofing tiles right here, they're called Vectum roofing. So those are separate sheets, and those are starting to get holes in them. They're starting to rust. They're starting to fall apart. Things like that. All these steel beams. It's suggested in there that we have a structural engineer come in and test the load bearing on them, make sure that they can hold the weight, to refurbish them, paint them, stuff like that. So
Are we looking or testing for black mold since we're doing this stuff?
I did a asbestos test last year, and we were good. I had someone come in and actually do a test.
Okay.
For asbestos, but not mold.
For asbestos.
One of the recommendations, again, within the facility study is that we employ a HVAC for air quality testing. And because there is reference in this to that, there are off gases that are accumulating. So that would be part of what, after we hear one, that we may talk about a consensus or a recommendation that you would like us to go forward with.
I have not personally seen any mold on the outside of the building or on any of these walls. Me personally, I've not seen any mold. Now, on the inside of them, I couldn't tell you, okay? But personally, I have not seen any mold anywhere in that facility. Or else I would have done something about it. So, next slide, please. This is just kind of our pump room and our chemical room where we have things. It's just a bird's eye view just to show you what it looks like. We can see just kind of the walls in here, and our piping system it's all natural. It's never been updated. So I believe our pumps have though. 2010, I believe, or 2011. When the school had it, this was all repiped and refinished. So now, next slide, please. This is the downstairs. So just to kind of go from like last year, this was when we had to shut down the pool to fix this pipe right here, because it was leaking. We also fixed, some piping that was in our, drain tile, in our drainage. And this was the pipe that we fixed, so this is all up to date. But the rest of it is all cast iron. It's starting to, you can see, it's just starting to really rust, and deteriorate throughout the building downstairs.
Jake, the one in the bottom left-hand corner, was that the one that had the big trash can underneath it?
Yeah, this one right here, yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's the one that states that we had to get fixed. There's a window, it's recommended that we get rid of that window and we cover it and fill it in.
That's
So-
actually a window that you can observe people swimming.
Yeah, it's downstairs in the basement there. And then, another slide, please, Chad. This is the HVAC, system upstairs. It's pretty up to date. I believe it said it was up to date in 2014 in this study. They do recommend taking a look and why is the ventilation working, stuff like that. So they do recommend hiring an HVAC engineer. I have been on the phone with Lunseth. They do offer that service to check HVAC systems, software systems, things like that. So, but right here, that is the heat pump actuator that heats the pool area where everyone swims and sits. So, inside these are little tubings that move glycol through the system in and out. There's little pinholes in there. As you can remember, we talked about this before. That's leaking glycol, and it actually, Chad, if you go to the next slide, please. It's going into this system, which is our boiler system. So that's where we had to shut it off. And then I'll kind of go up here too. This is the other heat pump actuator that heats the actual water itself. So that circulates the pool water back and forth, and it's a steam operated, so it pushes whatever you set your temperature at for your pool, but it pushes it back out to the pool. That's leaking as well inside that big tube back to the boiler. So
And those
that's
are the
why
two
we're-
items I referred to, that they're leaking, they don't function, and they would be about $40,000 to replace and install, to even open it up, because it doesn't get appropriate water temperature, and it doesn't get appropriate water, because it's not functioning.
So, top left here is just our Johnson controls, our HVAC, it tells us, like our diagrams and stuff that on our computer. And then this is the actual computer itself that we run off of. Needs to be updated. It does recommend that in the study as well. The water, that was brand new. This is brand new. Water heater. But I just wanted to show you just an update of where the pool's at and how much work it needs. I mean, we want this pool in our community. I think we need to figure out a solution to update, maybe not everything right away, but make it in phases or figure out a way how we can afford this.
How
So,
old is that heat activator?
I'm sorry, what? This one's the original, believe it or not. Yep, that's the original. So it's put in its time, it's put in its years. The only difference with the two is, like I said, this one does the pool water, and then the one that I showed you previously runs the glycol.
And is that one just installed, or?
No, that one's even newer.
2014?
2014, I believe it was, yep. Yep. I think maybe one more slide, Chad, or is that it? I think that's it.
And now you all have in front of you, and some of the people here have in front of the actual facilities study report. And I'm just going to read a couple of the parts, because it does show us that they're recommending that we have professional design team complete an in-depth study of the HVAC. They recommend structural engineer as well as the HVAC to assess the indoor air quality issues, including the moisture and humidity, and high concentration of pool chemical off gases inside the building. A detailed and in-depth study of this facility should include removal of interior and exterior finishes to view the extent and degradation. A detailed review of the mechanical systems and available modifications or repairs, and analysis of the likely cost to complete these improvements. In addition, they talk about a structural engineer looking at the wall cavity be open in various locations to allow for a detailed inspection of the structure. The exterior wall width, and that's the bricks that go up and down on the inside of the masonry, is in poor condition and is significantly deteriorated in many areas. Keep talking about eroding of the masonry materials. Weep vents, as Jake has suggested, are specifically designed to allow the moisture that builds up in the walls to escape and help prevent degradation of the masonry. Those were not the state of the art at the time the building was constructed. In addition, there are a few areas of damaged brick that should be replaced on the brick veneer of the building. Structural engineers should determine if additional strengthening of the structure is required. We're talking about the whole envelope, the whole building, that they're making these particular recommendations. And these materials would be available for anybody who wants them to look at, but you all have them in front of you. So the reason we're coming together is, one, we have a short-term issue. Are we in a position to spend $40,000 just to open the doors without addressing these other issues, the air gases, those kinds of things? And then once, if you make a decision or a recommendation that we should open the doors, to what extent are we going to employ structural engineers, HVAC engineers, those people who address air quality? They do not come cheaply, and it's just a factual recognition. I don't think there's a person in this room who doesn't recognize and acknowledge and appreciate what the pool means to our community. That's not the issue. The issue is, what steps do we take to address these issues, to what extent, what degree, and how do we pay for them? That is the issue. If you look at the items in front of you, you can see the suggested costs or their estimations of the cost of each of the priority levels. Priority 1, I've just looked at myself and with Jake, repair of the exterior masonry. The facade, 65 to 75. That's a priority 1. Replace damaged tectum roof deck. Jake talked about that. 50 to 60,000. Let's see, infill existing underwater window. That's 1. Conduct a feasibility study on facility repairs of the HVAC, $35,000. If you added up all of these in the first column, it'd be about $287,000 if you did them all immediately. So 1, you got to decide or recommend what should the city administrative staff be doing in terms of arranging for these types of studies, and probably more importantly, how do we pay for them?
So, quick question that, is there any types of grants out there that we can apply for to help with some of this?
I have been in contact with Pearl. I don't remember Pearl's last name, so excuse me, but she got she offered a friend of hers named Lori Swanson, and I talked to her last week on the phone. She used to be a grant writer for UND. She offered her services to help. So my point is I've looked at some grants, what I was sent to me. The grants that were sent to me, we can't apply for. We don't have the right. We're not part of the Minnesota Swim Institute, and I have an email back about how to be a part of that. And the other one was we don't fit in the categories of what they need. So my point is this Lori is looking for us as we speak.
The grants that we're aware of
Yeah,
now, we
we
don't
do
meet
not.
the
So,
criteria.
I mean,
So, but
We
as
took,
well as myself, I have been looking at grants as well.
So then the rest of it would have to come from taxpayer, city taxpayer dollars in a form of raising the levy, am I correct?
That's certainly one possibility, yes. We can seek out additional possible grants, for sure. We're looking at that. But whatever we have, let's say, in some reserves, we could access some of those. There are monies in reserves that I'm aware of that could apply here, some land and buildings monies, some general fund monies, yes. But if you were to replenish those reserves, it would be a levy increase, yes.
I don't know if this is a good question or not, but would it be feasible if you guys could come to the table, maybe at another Ways and Means, and say, okay, this is what we could do. We could pull this amount of money from reserves, we could do this, and then maybe the rest of the money would have to come from a levy increase of this percent.
If that were the consensus of this group, certainly administratively, department head-wise, particularly with Jake, we could come up with some priorities and some options to present to you at a Ways and Means for action, again, recommendations, yes, we could do that.
Because the other thing is if we chose to move forward with the whole, what did you say, 1.2 million?
If we did everything all at once, it's $1 million.
I mean, but is that, after we do that, is that, how long does this building go until we're back in the same boat that we're in again? I mean, is it?
Well, we can't make predictions exactly,
Right.
but this would bring up to present-day condition standards the entire building, if you did it all at once. And that, it could be bonded. There's a possibility of bonding for this. That would require a vote of the citizens. That's certainly a possibility. And we do have some preliminary estimates of the rate at which we would sell the bonds, and we think it's pretty competitive. And a time period over which they could be paid back of 5, 10, 15, 20.
So one last question here. Is there a price tag on a new pool?
We don't have that yet. Maybe I could suggest we have looked at these possibilities. Some have been explored more deeply than others. One, you close the pool and you just leave it sit there. That's a possibility. I don't think there's a person here who really wants that, but it's a possibility. Two, you close the pool and you fill it in and you have basketball courts or whatever. That's possible. Two, you close the pool and you knock it down and you build a new pool. Maybe different dimensions, that kind of thing. You close the pool, you knock it down, and you put an outdoor pool in. That's a possibility. Now, none of those options have been priced out, but we're trying to brainstorm about possibilities for a pool. Or you close it, knock it down, and use it for development for housing. Or you go with the school and say, hey, how about we do another joint powers, approach them and say, let's build a pool out by the school. You have all that complex centrally located. Or you fix it up according to this study based on estimates.
Yeah, I'm just not sure the school would be willing, because,
Well-
correct me if I'm wrong, I
That's
heard,
at
because I asked somebody how many Crookston swimmers we have in a swimming program, and I heard it was 4. I don't know if that's,
We had 4 swimmers last year. We co-opted with Foston Bagley. We did have one meet here in this pool, and they did practice here. The best estimate I can give you is we may have 3 swimmers this year, and it may be, I can't speak for the school board, but with that number of participants, it would be unlikely that there would be a swim team. I have contacted the University of Minnesota Crookston. Their lease of the pool is up, or their contract with us. We did present to them a new proposal, and they said they would just prefer to keep the old proposal because we had an increase for using it. They said their numbers using it are not what they have been in the past.
You know, I understand that a lot of this is, ongoing, some of it's necessary. But most of the things that I read in there, it said that they would recommend you doing this if you had a larger renovation project going on. So, I mean, it's not to say that everything on that list has to be done in the next, year. And with most all the rest of our buildings, et cetera, we're starting to get it set up where you're putting some funds away and having capital improvement projects. And we put money away for batteries for the Zambonis. We put money away for fire trucks. This year, pretty much left in the dust, but, it had a major, I think, investment put to it here just a few years back in, 14 or 20?
Was that the HVAC?
Whatever, I mean, there's been a lot of money put into that pool. And at what point do you say, cut your losses and start new? It's a 50-year-old building, and you're gonna have some repairs that are gonna take. Down here, this basement down here, when I first was on council, that was all, they had mold, they had, I don't know what, it was water stained. I couldn't even stay down here for a whole council meeting without coughing and whatnot. But they drilled on the outside and put vents in up there. And as it is today, this looks pretty darn good over there. So, I mean, there's possibly things you can do where they're saying you got to replace 10, 15, 20% rather than looking at the 100%. I mean, if it was your basement, you wouldn't tear the whole basement down to fix a corner wall. I mean, so until you get some real rigid numbers on stuff or what you absolutely have to have done, like we're saying right now, the $40,000 for those two activators or whatever you call it, that to me is necessary. That's what we're gonna have to come up with, and that's why we have municipal lands and buildings to take care of those special occasions when we get burned. It's like you having a savings account at home for different things. So I think we should take a good committee look, and I mean, and I haven't been in the pool for a long time, but you get the ones of you guys that are there, the ones that are running it, and sit down and say, okay, here's your recommendations. Which ones do you feel are absolutely necessary? And then which ones would you like to prioritize for next year, and next year, and working that into our budget. As you know, last year's budget got a little high,
So
but
being a good steward of our taxpayer dollars, if we move forward and start fixing these things as they come up and sticking more money each year, and then we get to the point, like you said, it's a 50-year building. And now we get to the point where we stick a bunch of money in, and now then we get to a point where we have no choice to do something different in this building. Now, we've spent a lot of taxpayer dollars on, just to get us through year by year.
there's a lot of buildings downtown here that are 100-year-old buildings, that are brick, that are doing this and that. If they are kept up, and, you've got to reinvest, I think that's probably the option we got.
I would like to see all of our options personally, like to see some hard numbers. I'd also like to take a hard look at the usability of the pool and what maybe keeps people away from it. And if we're gonna go down that route of investing in it, what we can do better, or make it more appealing to a larger audience. But I don't wanna make any decisions until we have all the options on the table.
Well, I think there are a couple of things that speak to that. We did just offer, and she did just accept, a person today who has run a private swimming pool in the state of Virginia. And she has had to market that to make a profit. So she's got a lot of really good ideas, I think, that she would be able to bring to us. And she's accepted the job, and she will be starting, we think, on June 12th. That's one thing.
So I'm sorry to cut you off. Would that be this person's only job? Is
No,
the pool?
no, it would not.
So that's the other thing that I have. When Cody was there, how many hours a week did he work at the pool? I mean,
40. he was there all the time.
So is there 40 hours a week?
For our rec supervisors, what you're asking, if we didn't have the pool? I honestly, I mean, and I've talked to Jake about this, but I think we do a really poor job of marketing the facilities that we already have. Perfect example, I had one of my son's birthday party, and it was like $30 to use a turf. And I know there's a ton of parents out here that would have rented that to have their kids running around in the wintertime. Or there's just so many opportunities, and I just don't think that we are marketing well.
There is no turf in the wintertime.
Well, it was
There's
like what,
ice- there's ice
April?
on that.
Well, yeah, but it was like April.
That's not winter, come on.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, it's Minnesota, guys.
I agree with you.
It's wintertime.
I agree
But
with
I
you.
think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think that we are selling ourselves short as a city in a lot of the facilities that we have, and working in event management space right now. When people come in to look for things, you know, they want to have that on a one-pager about what's available in a city. And we need to do a better job of that. And I think that was some of the conversations we initially had when we were looking for a new director of Park and Recs, was that we needed a better job of getting things happening in the CSC. I think the pool is just another example of that. There's a lot of opportunity, and I think that when we talk about the usage, that revenue is a really key component to having these spaces open and available for our constituents.
Well, that's a great question. I often thought why we don't market our CV, our sports arena better, and now the pool. I mean, is it too big of a job for our department heads to do the marketing on it, to get more events happening and more people to want to go there? Or is it something that as a city, we need to look at hiring, you know, there I go, I'm spending our taxpayer dollars again. But do we need to have a department head that's just solely in charge of marketing, you know, for that? Is that
Or
a?
communication, yeah. I
To
mean, I think
answer-
we do a better job of that on a lot of different levels.
To answer that question, we've had meetings now, myself and Carrie Kirschbaum and the Chamber of Commerce, to do a coordinated effort to try to address those two things that you're talking about. But I will tell you that the young lady that we interviewed and have hired now has been doing that as her job in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. She will bring, I'm not going to say new ideas, but she will bring a number of expertises about how to market a pool, because she had to manage that pool to make a profit for the franchisee. So I think she will be really good. Secondly, what you're looking at here is an asset, and how much, and this is really your all decision, how much do you want to put into this asset, short-term and long-term, for the citizens of Crookston? I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. Because short-term, can we find the $40,000 or $50,000 that it would take to simply open the doors? Yes, we can. Once we do that, with the other issues, what resources can we find, if we can, in the city reserves and budget to do those long-term studies? And then, if we do the study and they make a recommendation, not that we're legally bound to, but if they say, your air is bad in here, you better do this,
Very good.
can we find the resources to do that? That's the real issue, to me.
We have someone in the audience that's been waiting to.
You want to step up here, because we're broadcasting, if you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do, actually. You don't have to say who you are, you can just talk to it so it can go out.
Sure. I'm Colleen McCrae, and I live at 111 Mill Street in Crookston. And our family was really fortunate to be patrons of the pool for about 18 years of our daughter's life, part of the very early Crookston Crocodiles, and then moving up into the fabulous swim program at the high school. So we have had a long-term interest in the pool. There, as a grant writer myself, I can tell you that just a quick search before I left home, there are several grants that you'd be immediately available to apply for, eligible to apply for. Again, not obviously a whole $1 million in one grant, But there are ways to piece together opportunities that do your phased-in approach. And then if you look at the cost to the value of any kind of repairs to $1 million, that works out to about $136 per person in Crookston. So I would just like to encourage ongoing conversations and look at some of those funding opportunities that can be matched with opportunities that you have in your own budget. For example, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has a grant proposal that you can place, and it pays up to 75% of your costs, depending on how much you're asking for. So there's ways to match. And I'd also encourage you to maybe approach the Crookston Area Community Fund to potentially set up a donor designated fund for pool costs. That's it. Thanks.
It's what I had mentioned to you earlier, Corky, about that Crookston Area Fund.
So in a situation, if we do just part of this, and something else happens and affects what we've done, how's that gonna, or what the odds of it happening?
I mean, I think that's why we have to have those studies done. Like, we have to have the engineer come in. We have to have the HVAC person come in, because if we're just blindly fixing things, like, yeah, who knows what's gonna happen?
I'm more concerned about us fixing the heater in the pool and then the beams in the ceiling give way or something. I think about, like, it's not that uncommon. What was it, in Grand Forks, Choice Fitness, their pool ceiling fell in due to a lot of the ventilation issues. And so I want to make sure that we're making an educated decision regardless, and that it's going to benefit us ultimately in the long term. And I think the only way we can do that is really to have a clear understanding of what we have and what actually needs to be done.
And the facility study is a rough blueprint for that. But even within that study, they recognize that we need additional expertise in terms of a structural engineer and HVAC and those kind of things. And let's be straightforward about it. If we hire the structural engineer, we're going to be coming back to you all going, hey, if we can find the money in the budget, you're approving that. And that's a deviation. And that's not to say it shouldn't be done, but that is a very real thing for you all to make those decisions. What I'm hearing you say is there's a consensus here that we need to follow the recommendations for a structural engineer and an HVAC, whether we call it engineer or expert, to come in and do those evaluations to see what needs to be done, and then we need to price it out. Is that a fair consensus?
Yeah.
Now, that affects Jake in terms of if we say we're going to do that, in addition, are we going to get those activators fixed and open the doors knowing what we got here still remains? Or are we going to say, open the doors? That affects him and his programming, and affects the people who are here who do swimming. I can't tell you how long those studies will take. I'm assuming it's not years and months, but weeks, depending on if we can get somebody here.
I think, again, these are questions we don't have hard answers to, and I don't feel like I want to make that decision until I have those answers.
Just a question, I'm looking at the budget, and as far as the revenue side, just as of last April, we're at 166% of revenue. We're already at $131,000, and that's a lot higher than the two on the, so what happened to get the extra revenue?
What happened?
Did we get, yeah.
Cody came back. He ran different programming.
So just by having Cody come back, we
had a pool operator. He was there all the time. He ran different swim lessons. He ran private lessons. He ran swim lessons in months that he hasn't done before. There's a lot of homeschool kids that came this year, more schools that came this year. So since he's been back, he's been offering a lot of stuff.
So just because Cody wasn't there, we just didn't offer that stuff? We don't have a backup
I didn't have
plan?
a full-time pool manager.
I will tell you, Delane, I was one of the parents who did swimming lessons when Cody wasn't there, and I would never do it again until Cody got back. So I don't
So
know if that has
that's
something to do with it.
That's something we need to discuss. Just because one person leaves, we can't falter like that.
Agreed, but that's why we have the new, we hired a new
Right,
person.
but-
We can't
but
get
if-
mad
but-
about it, we just hired the
But
person
what if
who's
this
gonna fill
person
that
gets
role.
another job or decides they do, then do we,
Well,
I mean, does
imagine we
it, does
hire
it the next
someone
man
again.
up come and say, hey, okay, I'm taking over and?
Well, we're holding off from hiring somebody because he was on leave, I believe.
Yeah, he had.
So
was
it wasn't like we could rehire somebody.
No, we had to wait till
I don't
he
know if it was
got
probably
But I-
managed the
and I
best.
understand that, but in an organization and in business, we can't just let stuff
Agreed.
fall apart just because somebody's away on National Guard leave or we have a person leave. We have to have the ability to maintain.
Here's the issue in this, let's just look at this. You have to have somebody who can teach swimming lessons. Well, that means someone who's certified. Those you don't just pick up overnight. You have to have lifeguards. One of the problems is we have difficulty getting lifeguards trained. The young lady that was hired today is certified to give lessons, is certified to train lifeguards, is certified to train people who can give lessons. You're right to point out she could leave tomorrow. I don't believe she will. She has some,
But she might not be here for 30 years.
no.
So I mean, when that day
There
comes.
could be more consistency for sure. I don't want us to get too far off of the actual conversation that we need to be having.
Right, but
But I understand that. I think just also there is a national lifeguards shortage. This is not common to us. But there definitely was a struggle and it was very evident.
it's relevant to this conversation because once we get everything up and running, can we manage the thing? I mean, because.
Well, I think that's going to have to be a priority and something that I think Corky as a city administrator should be focusing on, and Jake as the director of Park and Rec should definitely be accountable for.
I agree.
I mean, we've taken the steps that we needed to take. We hired the person that we needed to hire. So, I mean, I don't know, like.
I think we address it going
can't
forward.
just sit here and worry if she's going to leave before
No.
this. We have to get the pool up and running before
I
we
think-
worry about her leaving and the pool losing money.
I think we address it as it comes.
But none of us knew about that until I asked the question right now, why did our revenue increase that much? Well, it's because we didn't have the right person there, or it was just forgot about or ignored or whatever the case may be. It was mismanaged is what it was. So that's the other question is I want to, I don't want the pool to go away, but once it's there, I want it to be managed properly, is what I'm asking.
I think one of the issues was that when you have someone like Cody, who's unmilitary, if you seek out another person to handle that job, you have to tell them, hey, it might end tomorrow if he comes back. That was a difficulty in terms of getting someone similar, okay? When Cody was gone, yes.
But for sure, with National Guard leave, he's not guaranteed to get the same job back. He's guaranteed to get a job back with same compensation. So that's the thing with that, so.
It is, but certainly there was the expectation on his
Right.
part and the city's
No,
that he would come back.
I get that and I appreciate that. But I just want to make sure that if we do spend this money, we have proper steps in place to manage this thing properly.
I think we do. Some of the
So
things
I
that.
get what you're saying. You don't want us to, for lack of a better term, just like throw away money, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna do this, let's do it right.
Right.
And let's hold people accountable for making sure that it's managed properly, right?
Yes.
And I think the young lady that was hired today will be in a position to do that. Even in some ways,
How do we quantify that? Do we task this person and saying, okay, this is what the revenue was in this year, so we expect you to increase it by X, or if it goes down, do we just say, okay, I guess it is
No.
what it is?
I think there's accountability on two levels. Certainly at the Park and Rec level, we have a Park and Rec director who's very aware of that. We also have the accountability, at least presently with the administrator, that that's a priority you set. That And we were very candid with this young woman today, very candid. We took her through the pool. We sat for an hour and a half and said, here's the report. Is this a position you want to take?
Right.
And do you understand our balance sheets here? This pool has lost money. That's certainly understandable. And she said, I think we can do some things to generate revenue. Did she say to make it break even? No.
I
But
mean,
she said, I am committing to do those things. She gave us a couple examples.
Corky, now, it might help to know, I mean, this isn't a gal that applied for a job from Raleigh, Virginia, to come and run our pool. There is a tie to her coming back here, right?
Well, there's two things. She has a personal connection to this community, and that individual is here. And that individual has a good job, and we expect, but she also did say that this job is right in her wheelhouse. This is what she's done. This is what she wants to do. She understands the emphasis is on the pool, but she also understands she might ride a lawnmower once in a while. She might do programming.
So that's where I think we got into some of the issues, is we had the person that was supposed to be looking after the pool is riding a lawnmower, and then some of that stuff happens. So I think if we're gonna do this, we have to have somebody designated just for the pool, and then maybe, so is it just one person that's designated the pool, so that person steps away, what happens when people come in the door?
Well, you have a park board.
We have, what?
You have a park board, I mean, that's,
Well, they don't come and work the pool.
I'm not saying that they have to help make decisions.
No,
No,
there's
the
a
primary
there's a step. It's-
responsibility-
It's on him, and then it's for him, for his director,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then it goes on from
Long,
there.
long story short, we need to do better than at that,
Right,
I think
Okay.
that's,
and that's to be brought up at another time, I think.
right?
So, but this evening, what we're asking is, what direction, what recommendation do you make administratively? What I'm hearing you say is, one, we need to get these studies done. Two, we need to find the money to do that, and if it's outside my spending authority, I will be coming to you at the council level saying, here's what these are gonna cost. That's an alteration of our budget. We do have funds to cover it. Is that something you will do? And then, maybe even more important to the people here is, are you gonna authorize the expenditure of these funds to just open the doors immediately, or do we delay that until we get these studies done?
Well, the problem is, I mean, I'm almost more inclined to spend the money to get the doors open, and then, because then these other questions that we need answers to are gonna take a long time. And hopefully, from the time that we get the doors to get open until we get those answers, nothing else happens.
Well, we also have an employee that needs to do something.
but they're not just the pool.
Right, but I agree with Delane. I think that we take the steps that are necessary to get the doors open, and then proceed with doing the research that we need to do with regards to the bigger picture of how we're going to bring this back to a state of the art for this community.
And if you're all comfortable knowing we can get the doors open, we don't know how long because we have to order the parts, they have to get here, they have to get installed. That could be days, weeks, we don't know. Jake's been, well, you can tell him what you've been doing with that.
Yeah, I've been on the phone a lot with Lundsteth. The guy that I'm talking with these heat actuators is Chad. He got me back this proposal for the $12,000. He came in on a Thursday, and I had it back on a Tuesday. I did ask him on the way out when I met with him. I said, if we move forward with this project, how long is this going to take? And his answer was, it all depends who I'm dealing with at the time, the sales rep. So You know, it might take 3 days to get the parts back to him, and then they gotta put a work order out to get here. It might take him 3 weeks to get it. He's not 100% sure. He's not gonna give me a 100% answer saying it's gonna take 10 days.
And that $12,000 is for one of those.
Pump, yes.
And the other one may be different in price because it's a different
And the other one's
mechanism.
bigger, and it needs different tubing.
So what is the $40,000?
That's the 12,000 plus maybe 18 and
and then
installation and,
That's for your heat actuators.
yep.
Okay. Well, you're saying 12, so I'm just making sure that,
Yeah. Why do you
You know
don't have
what,
it?
at this point though, we've put how much money into that pool in the last few years, that to leave that go would be a real disappointment. I believe that we put this in, and then as we get this going, take a little more care to how we run the building. And how we, we're trying to do that now with the rest of the buildings of getting them squared away and having a 5-year plan and knowing that you can't fix everything at one time, but it all doesn't go to heck at the same time either, so.
Right.
If you have a little bit more, leeway,
50
everybody
years
hated to
ago-
come here and ask for money. Look at the library. We didn't do nothing with the library until we're knuckles deep, nobody wanted to come to this council and ask for money to keep it going. We had how much money in our municipal land and funds, It's there, but nobody wanted to say, hey, we need to take that out and spend it here. And then we kept saying, well, we don't owe any money, we're in good shape. Yeah, but our buildings are all going to heck.
yeah.
So,
There's definitely
it's-
some
this is
kicking
where
the
we
can down the
gotta-
road,
So-
too.
Well,
Well,
we
this
gotta
is part of, what do you want to call it? New regime, new philosophy.
It's not the way we did it 100 years.
And remember, we don't care how you did it 100 years ago. We care about what makes it right now.
So
But
I'm going to be part of the consensus that I think we get the pool open. But I just want to leave you guys on this one point. What portion of our population of Crookston are we serving with having this pool? So that's the thing that I struggled with over the last couple weeks when this whole
hit the fan.
hit the fan is, really at the end of the day, I don't want Crookston to not have a pool. I don't, but working for my constituents, I have to ask myself, what portion of them really care about it?
Well, and to be fair, I've had a number of letters and telephone calls and personal talks with proponents of the pool. I can say I've had others, it will not be the same number, who have called and said, I don't want to pay a dime for that pool, I never use it and I don't care about it. Now, there is another side which we also have to address, but, and I think that's your point, and that will be determined as we go along. We don't have perfect numbers. Jake has tried to compile numbers, but we don't have a totally accurate system. And to be straightforward with you, I have asked that we do 2 analyses. One, number of uses. How many uses of the pool? Secondly, can we determine the number of users who created those uses? Do you have 50 people who create 5,000? Or do you have 500 people that create 5,000? Our system is not perfect, but we are trying to break that down for you.
So can I just,
Thing is that you consider the marketing of it too, that there's some things that don't get marketed like it should.
All right.
That would, it's gonna be slight increase, with marketing it, but if we had someone that marketed things.
So the other side of the coin, this is something when people look at our community to move to.
Yep.
So this is something that I think only helps people make a decision to move to a community our size, and they look at our amenities and what we have. And it'd be nice to have a pool as one of those options that when they move to Crookston, they have one of those things. So I've looked at both sides of the coin, and that's unrealized, potential of people that possibly move here for
One thing to
Because-
consider is, if you go back so far in time, the number of students we had per class was 200. We're graduating 80 now. That's a factor that we have looked at when we looked at marketing. We're not marketing to the same number of people that we have been able to market to in the past. So we can't use that too far back when we look at, well, the revenue 12 years ago was way more, because we had way more students who used it, whether it be private lessons, swim team, students at UMC. So we're trying to factor that in when we look at this whole picture.
But we also had a different tax base. It used to be the school district. It used to be the county when it first started. It was the county, the school district, and the city. Then the county bailed out, then the school bailed out, and so that's why got the.
Well,
the
when I was on the park board way back, when Moses was around, we had a joint powers agreement.
I mean, I would encourage some of the folks that maybe don't live in Crookston, that live in the county, to go to their, the commissioners there and maybe lobby for some money to help with this project, because obviously, I think a lot of people outside the city of Crookston
Are utilizing the pool.
use the pool.
So I just have a couple things. One, I think there's been some people who've like made the argument that we could say the same thing for the CSC, that it only really services a small portion of
Right.
the city. So I'm just throwing that out there because it's an argument that I've heard.
Fair.
I think that, I'm almost done, sorry. I think that I'm more comfortable putting forward this $40,000 as this Band-Aid, if you will, to the pool, with the understanding that we've hired somebody who will market this and hopefully generate more revenue. Also understanding that as a city facility, it's not always, we're not a business, it's not always about revenue, right? It's also about providing a service to our city. So keeping that in mind as we go forward. But putting any more money after that, outside of us really getting a deeper understanding of what is needed for this facility, I think I would really struggle okaying anything other than that until we can actually find out really how good or bad of shape we are in and what it's really going to take and cost into a hard analysis. I also would really like to see us have those hard numbers, Corky, and I know that I've kind of asked that several times about making sure that we're really making those, understanding not only who the attendees are, how many unique users versus how much the usage is a really important part. So I think that we need to have a better, more educated understanding of what we're doing before we make any larger decisions. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm Carol Gregg. For almost 27 years, I have used the community pool almost daily. And I am a part of a group of volunteers who have activated themselves in the last couple of weeks around the pool issue. Most of our energy has been around justifying the presence of the pool. And so I'm going to kind of shortcut this process, but I do want to go through a few points that I think may have been touched on by different members. First of all, looking at the benefits of the Crookston Community Pool, we're considering economic development, safety, quality of life issues, recreation, as well as wellness for all ages and socioeconomic levels of our community. Particularly, we're looking at seniors and their participation, and of course, they're a very important part of our community. And their use of the pool is oftentimes predicated on therapeutic benefits, including artificial joints, arthritis, weight gain, mobility difficulties, cognitive challenges, and so on. So those are all things that I know you're aware of, but I just wanted to kind of underline some of those points because that touches real people in your ward. Crookston infants and children under the age of 18 currently comprise about 27% of the city's population. All of those children obviously need to learn how to swim. And we just heard this story recently that in the most recent swim time for Highland School, 40% of the current 5th grade class did not know how to swim. We determined that that was in part due to the pool closure during COVID. The 3rd grade is when those students learned how to swim, and that was when the pool was closed. But the point is that the impact of a closed pool has serious safety repercussions. If the pool remains closed this summer, more than 200 children will go without lessons. And in talking with area pools and area people, it's unlikely that Crookston children will be able to access other community programs because most of them are already filled. And then we looked at people that we don't normally think of as pool users, people who are clients of the Day Activity Center, the DAC, clinical rehabilitation services, social services agencies, and mental health providers. All look for outlets for their clients to cope and to prosper. Conversations with our group has had with representatives of these providers state that they are very interested in utilizing the pool as a service for their clients. In the Crookston School District alone, there are nearly 350 children with special needs, and reportedly that number is growing. The time in the pool, according to one therapist, has been proven to address anxiety, develop confidence, and build physical strength, even for people with significant physical and mental health challenges. Populations that are using the pool and others who were contacted by our volunteer group include Tracy Cameron, who is an occupational therapist. She owns her own business and is employed at Choice Fitness in Crookston. She said that she would feel a loss if the pool closed. She said the primary concentration of her profession is to treat patients injured on the job. She highly recommends to her patients water therapy at the pool as part of their treatment plan. She sees pre-surgical patients too, such as those preparing for hip and knee replacement. Using the pool for strength and recovery are highly encouraged by her. We also got support from Riverview's Lance Norman, who is Vice President of Ancillary Services, and he said that Riverview is all in on any program that supports wellness for children and adults, including the pool. And we talked with Jean-Ann Binnick, who's the DAC's new director. She reported that 75 clients served by the DAC go to outings in Crookston 2 times a week. And in the past, currently they go to the CSC and walk because that's one of the few opportunities they have. But in the past, they have utilized the pool. And as Trish can tell you, that's been quite a moving and exciting experience, both for them and for the pool people. Pool closures in 2022 may have resulted in lost income from $25,000 to as much as $35,000, as extrapolated from the 2022 earnings report. That's just a guesstimate and based on my knowing about when the pool wasn't available. That would not have covered the shortfall on the budget, but lost income does contribute to the overall deficit. We have heard that it's said that we don't need an 8-lane, 25-meter pool in Crookston, but that is the pool we have, and it is unique. It is an asset that can be used to promote broad appeal to what may be an unexplored market segment. In other words, let's capitalize and market the potential. An increasing shortage of controlled swimming facilities in our area offers opportunities to advocate and market our unique option to benefit our population and to bring others on board. In the past, marketing may have been seen as a costly process of paid advertising and promotion, but as anyone knows, social media has made access to audiences relatively inexpensive. And as Christy pointed out, some of the almost quick fixes that are available just from using social media. So there's certainly an opportunity for the pool and the pool people, and obviously our new pool director to utilize. We have all heard that the pool is a money pit, but the Crookston pool has also been lacking proper upkeep and maintenance over many years. The pool has suffered because of too many days closed, and it's in crisis mode now because of a long history of short-term fixes just to manage day-to-day, as Wayne has pointed out. To replace the pool, construction of a pool similar in size to the Crookston pool, as referenced by a Washington architect, may run as high as $500 a square foot. Our pool building, which Jake and I paced off this afternoon, measures approximately 22,500 square feet. So the new pool could be expected to top $11 million. In light of that estimate, making the prioritized repairs now to bring the current facility to a usable standard may very well be a smart investment. Proper maintenance and upkeep would provide additional years of education, safety, and enjoyment. Our group has also been working on fundraising opportunities, which we had hoped to share with the group tonight. That this continues to be in process and will be shared with you as the opportunity comes up. We have an agreement with the Crookston Aquatic Boosters, who hold a 501c3 designation, to act as our fiscal agent to work for the Crookston pool. A dedicated group is already in place to work in partnership with the city pool manager to help fundraise for projects once the pool is operational. We also talked about marketing. For many, a pool is a draw when families consider moving to Crookston. Tracy Kuchin of LeBlanc Realty echoed this message based upon her experience when she shows out-of-town families new homes in town. Closing the pool would be losing an asset when promoting Crookston. As a city, contributing to a thriving narrative with many positive qualities would attract a younger population of growth, and we would hope that a consensus could be built to save and enhance what we have and move forward to a mode of planned management and operation. In closing, we ask you to consider that the Crookston Community Pool is a multi-generational asset that supports the health, wellness, and safety of all its citizens, as well as potential residents. After all is said and done, for a child who has not had access to a swim lesson, what's a child's life worth? Thank you. I have copies of the material that I had planned to share with you, and I will pass that out for your purview. If we would welcome questions or comments from the committee, and as a volunteer group, we stand ready to support the pool and to do what it takes to get this going. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
So what are you looking for?
Well, I think what we're looking for from the administrative point of view is, one, do you want to authorize me to go look for the, let's say, 40,000 to make the fix on the heating elements? Okay? Because we'll have to find it somewhere.
Municipal land and.
I think we can do that, but it's got to be a recommendation, and it will come before the council at the next meeting for approval, if we find it. Two, do you have a consensus that we should be contacting the appropriate structural engineers and the HVAC people to do the more in-depth study? And then is the consensus that we should try to find money for that? That may be a little different than the land and buildings, but we can look for it and bring that to the council at the next meeting. Now, that's 3 weeks down the road, because this is the one or two times during the odd year that we get 3 weeks between council meetings, and we would certainly want to bring that for your approval. You got to approve it because it's outside the budget. But we can line that all up so that at the next meeting you can act on it.
But I guess if we have general consensus, wouldn't it be better off? Wouldn't it be better off to, I'd be willing to go right now to make it a motion to buy the
That's-
two out of the municipal land. and
No, I don't think you can actually do that.
Just send, oh, I suppose you gotta send it back to us, we're not at council.
Yes, that's kind of the way it was done in the past.
Oh,
But we can get everything lined
But I mean,
up,
just
we
so
can
you-
get everything set so that if,
You're gonna take another month out of,
I mean, I'd be open to coming to a special council meeting just to get the thing moving along, because, I mean, we could do that, right?
we can have a special council meeting with proper notice, with a limited agenda, and can only act on those items. But if it's one to approve the purchase of those items, once we get their cost, I mean, we don't know really for sure their cost. We don't know delivery time to open once we get them in, and then get the engineers hired as soon as possible. And I do have one quote already. Kind of thought you might want to do this. So we could get a hold of them and say, hey, we're going to have a special council meeting. Well, we're not going to have it next Monday because that's Memorial Day. But maybe sometime the 3rd or 4th. And if the meeting time and the date doesn't matter, we can get that done.
Sounds good.
I mean, if it helps to.
It does facilitate it more
move the
quickly,
process
yes.
along faster, I'd be up for that.
To get the engineers here and looking, yes. How quick we can get the parts, that's another story.
If you want me to, if you're gonna move in the direction of getting these, I mean, I'll be on the horn right away tomorrow morning, contacting
Yeah, I think
Lund
so.
Seth.
I think we should do that. I would agree.
I agree.
Consensus? Okay, we can start doing that, and then hopefully when they examine it, they can give us some more solid numbers, Councilman Jurdy, about what is this really gonna cost? These are estimates, but how extensive, we don't know. That's the problem, we don't know.
Do we have any unanimous? Corky, do you want
I
to?
have a question just for informational purposes. The 1.1, that doesn't include anything that the HVAC expert or structural engineer could find.
Could find. That's just based on what they
That's just
saw.
based on
Right.
what you know now, and
Based on the report.
Yep, and it may be less,
Yeah.
or it could be significantly more. We just don't know. These were estimates that they gave us, and I think they were appropriate because they got us to this point. I mean,
And those are based on the report, correct?
correct, that, they were actually in the report.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to clarify.
And that, the numbers, I added up and I added 10%, just because it may take that much more to get you those numbers to about 1.1 million.
So that would-
I thought you'd be interested in that, and that's the basis of it. Could be less,
So do we have?
could
a
be
unan-
more.
Do we have a unanimous? Is it unanimous?
I think just because of our initial concerns, I'd really like to see some more updates about the pool and as this new person implements marketing and what have you.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about with IT is potentiality of a fob type thing, just installing it, what would that cost? That way we'll have accurate numbers about who's using it. And I think it is important to know not only the number of uses, but the number of people who create those uses.
Right.
We'd like to broaden that, quite frankly. We'd like to have, 1,000 people create 100,000 uses as opposed to 5,000 people, creating that 100,000. It's just,
Is that, Chad, is that like another piece that they can add to the new software that you guys had tracking other?
Presently, the fob system that's in place at the sports center is old. It isn't under support contract. We would have to look to introduce a new system for that purpose at the pool.
What's the current?
It's called Vanderbilt Bright Blue, but it was installed, I believe, in 2010.
I'm actually referring to the new software you guys.
No, you can
The
you'll have
active-
a fob system.
But is there something like that that you can,
It's,
I don't know if it necessarily needs to be a fob, but
yeah,
something that's able to track?
I would recommend that we have a conversation with Active to see if there is a system either that they support directly or a third party that they would recommend that we
Yeah,
talk.
I would rather piggyback off something that we already have versus, yeah.
A
And
brand
we,
new
and
system.
we have initiated that, or I've initiated that conversation with Chad in anticipation of really needing better and more solid numbers about who's using this and when.
I mean, at the end of the day, one of the biggest things they thought we were trying to get out of this software was to have this historical data of all the park and rec things that we were utilizing, right? So
Yes.
I would think that that would be the natural next step for that.
Happy to have a conversation with them about what they either offer or a third party that they would recommend that we talk with for that purpose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think the directive is unanimous and clear. Recommendation that we go ahead and act as though the council will approve getting the activators and also then lining up a structural engineer or two and then HVAC people or whatever this report recommends to get in and give us solid data before you commit further. Is that fair?
Fair,
Yeah.
very good, yes. Excellent.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor?
Learning here.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Ways and means adjourned.
Good job.
Thank you.
That $40.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.